Welcome back to Morning Barbados. We are having our doctor on the line. Our lawyer on the line segment. And of course, we have lawyer Verda DePisa. We have a call on the line. So let's go straight to Goldine. Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Go ahead. Good morning.
Yes, I totally agree with the attorney and what she was saying technically, that the case that with the girl Anthony referred back to the O.J. Simpson case whereby there was a performed criminal activity that took place. That girl, the mother protected her daughter and her family. It was an accident, and I believe the case, the murder, the actually accident occurred, but she protected her family. She knew what happened, but it wasn't a murder where she committed the crime.
All right, thank you very much, Goldine.
Indicative of the passions that have been incited around this case, both locally and abroad.
That's right, they've run the gamut. I personally don't wish to speculate on what really happened. We probably will never know. I mean, right now, as far as the court and the world is concerned, Casey Anthony does not tell the truth. So even if she comes out with a book now, it will very likely be another version, and in America that is a distinct possibility. It will probably be just simply another version. So we really don't know, and we'll never know what happened to that little girl.
Speaking of versions, though, and what happened in court and her being tried in the court of public opinion, I want you to be very clear for our viewers as to what happens in American courts in criminal cases versus what happens in Barbadian courts, notwithstanding the media circus that so easily ensues cases that are this titillating. I mean, there are people online saying this is the greatest show since O.J. Simpson.
And it absolutely was. That is why we watched for 30-something days. In Barbados, we do have cases that attract media attention like that. We have a few coming now. We have some that have gone before. We had what I call the epic trial, the Rambaran, which was probably the first time that a shipment of drugs was not only the issue but on display. The difference here is that the media is a little bit more disciplined, not always, but it is a little bit more disciplined, and there is always the understanding here that what is reported on, because we're such a small society, what is reported on will impact on the jury pool. The sensational cases in Barbados have resulted in long jury selection, and it will probably continue to be that way, because you will always be looking for persons who will demonstrate in the short period of time that you get to question them, will demonstrate that they can stand above the public opinion and the media opinion, which is not necessarily the public opinion, and will be able to deliver a dispassionate verdict.
I want to get back to the role of the media in terms of polluting the jury pool, but we have Cheryl who is holding. Welcome to the program, Cheryl. You're live on air.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead, please.
I'm calling to find out. I have a girlfriend I have is going through a divorce, alleged divorce in Guyana. She wants to know if the divorce is being done in Guyana. She's living in Barbados. If the lawyer have to send her anything to sign, or will it just be done? Could it just be done behind her back?
I have no idea. I really was at law school when they were teaching Guyanese law, but we were expected to pay attention to the parts that apply to us. What I would suggest, there are several lawyers in Barbados who are Guyanese and who may well be able to answer that question better. In some jurisdictions, and I think St. Lucia for certain is one, that still have the old petition system where there does have to be some signage by both parties in order to bring the matter before the courts. That does not obtain in Barbados, and I am not certain what the position is in Guyana, so you're better off looking for a Guyanese attorney. I don't know if I'm allowed to advertise any of them, but there are some, and you can check with them. They may well be able to give you a clearer view of what the position is with their divorce laws.
All right, well, let's look at some concepts here. When you're an accused, you have the right to appeal. Does the state, as far as you know, in the U.S., have the option for a retrial or another trial, or should they gather more evidence? Can they do that, or does a double jeopardy applies?
Okay, starting at the beginning, it is not called an appeal when it is done by the prosecution. It's called case stated. It never has anything to do with the finding of the jury. It usually has to do with either a fault on the part of the judge, and that fault most often when it moves from a case stated by the prosecution is in relation to whether or not the sentence was too lenient. Double jeopardy does attach where the jury has already delivered a verdict, but it can be, well, to use the word disturbed suggests that double jeopardy applies in that case, but if there's any fresh evidence, something brand new that was definitely not available for this trial, not that they didn't use it in this trial, but that it was not available at this time. So if they now find something, and I'm hard pressed to think what that could be.
A video.
But yes, absolutely. A perfect recording of the actual event is definitely the best example. If they find something brand new against her, then yes, she can be retried. But of course, that is used sparingly because it is retrying. It's not as though the jury was hung. The jury was absolutely certain. We haven't even heard that it was a majority verdict. It was just a simple agreement by all of them that there was not enough even for manslaughter, even for, you know, any criminal negligence on her part.
Do you think that the prosecutors hung their hat too high in calling for the murder? In other words, if they had dropped the charge, do you think that maybe they might have had a greater success? Because this verdict is not sitting well with people. The jurors themselves said they felt sick after acquitting Casey Anthony.
Yes, I think perhaps the failing of the prosecution was believing firmly that the public opinion was going to carry across the board. They didn't only go for murder. They announced very early on that they were going for the death penalty. Now, in Florida, you can have murder and you don't have to go for the death penalty. So even in opting for murder, had they put something else on the table, I don't know, though, that the evidence ever was going to get to the level that they expected. It was purely circumstantial, and you're taking away not only someone's liberty, but someone's life. Perhaps you need something a little stronger than that.
Let's take you back to law school a little bit now. Let's look at this whole concept of, and I guess you may have had this argument, that's what I'm saying, that in law school, evidence versus innocence. Now, people who are of your peers who are asked to be dispassionate and look at the evidence presented, but then you're also looking at people who've looked at her, who've seen it, and there's this feeling that she is not innocent. So how do you separate that in that area? What would be your argument for that in law school?
Clearly it is very difficult because the jury avoided the media when they came out. They were very torn, in tears, continue up to this morning to be conflicted, not in terms of what their decision was, but what they had to go through to get there, because it seemed very clear that there was this firm belief that she had something to do, whatever degree it was, something to do with the death of this child, but that there simply wasn't anything put before them that they could latch on to and say other than gut feeling. And I would hate to think, oh,
that's not enough.
As a defense attorney, that scares me. That scares me.
For law,
yes,
to convict someone on gut
feeling. Gut feeling, yes, because there are enough innocent people in prison. Right.